We can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, cause this is our town, our town.
I think that that's what Occupy Wall Street is really about.
Welcome to Occupy Now 2012 and Happy New Year. A new year, a new direction, and a new attitude. Now I'm sure you noticed with all the news comes a new set as well. That's right, we are expanding, getting bigger and better, ready to take on the challenges the new year brings. Now speaking of the new year, Occupy revelers brought it in style all over the world. Brothers and sisters were out making a difference. And that brings us to our first clip. Occupy Wall Street stepped up to the plate and retook Zuccotti Park on the New Year's Eve. NYPD put up resistance and would later take back the park, but not without some dirty dealings, snatching peaceful protesters off the street in a further attempt to intimidate and disperse. As a matter of fact, a National Lawyers Guild observer was arrested while trying to make a phone call. Shame, shame, shame on you, NYPD. Now, our first clip takes place at Zuccotti Park, and it's quite hilarious if you pay attention to the new pepper spray cop and watch his response and action as he's pointed out as the one who used the pepper spray. Now, I just thought that was one of the most tell-all videos to date. Pepper Spray Cop 2. On realizing that he was being called out by protesters, he began to act like a child who had just gotten caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Now, if you notice, on realizing what he had done, his supervisors moved quickly to get him away from the area. Now, it brings the question, what type of training did this cop receive concerning the use of that chemical weapon? Well, one of the things that pepper spray cops all over the country might want to take into consideration in the future is who's watching the backs of the Occupy movement members. Now, this next clip is not one I've seen on mainstream media. Well, I'm pretty sure we understand why. Though not part of the Occupy movement, many groups are realizing that they are part of the 99%, and they're stepping forward to lend teeth, as the next speaker will explain, to the movement.
So you are with the Border Patrol?
USBorderGuard.com. We're totally privately funded.
Oh, really? I thought you were, the badge looked like it was, you were part of the government or something.
Well, all the citizens are part of the government.
I understand.
They work for us.
No, I understand. Yeah, they're the public servants.
I know what you're saying.
These are the public servants right here. Public servants, the people. Public servants, people. And so your organization is called what?
USBorderGuard.com.
Okay, and can you tell me your name, or is that, or your
Sure.
handle or something, or what?
You know what? I'm the patrol leader of it.
Okay, well, I'm Morpheus. So
Okay,
what's your
good to
handle?
meet you. JT.
JT, cool.
Yeah.
And so, what is your
Main stance today?
Yes.
Well, we're exercising our Second Amendment right.
I love it.
Everybody can have a First Amendment right. So what we want to drive home today is that regardless of different beliefs, that the moment we give up our Second Amendment right, that's when tyrants can come in. That's when the big boys with guns can sweep through and take anybody's rights away.
Right.
So that's why we're standing out here today. That's our primary focus. The secondary focus is that there's 60,000 dead in northern Mexico from guns that our government provided, from training to the Los Zetas from our government, which also includes Los Zetas. So why is that? So we're calling attention to that as well. We're having Americans killed and Mexicans killed. We really should be working with our neighbors, not against them.
Right.
So that's our second focus, because that's what we do every day.
Okay.
But our main focus out here is because we want to exercise those rights.
Right, and we have to be protected against the public servants.
That's why we're facing this way, except for we got security guys.
Right, I love it. I think this is awesome, man. You guys really rock, man.
We put our back to everybody back here because we're trusting everybody behind us to be peaceful. Doesn't matter if we agree or disagree.
Right.
That's what our rights are about.
So
we're not Wall Street bankers, let's put it that way.
What? Are you prepared to do anything here today?
That's what we're trained for.
Okay.
So everybody out here is part of a squad that's fully trained use justified use of deadly force. That's important to know. We're not cowboys out here causing a problem.
I understand.
As you can see, it's all peaceful.
Yes, exactly,
and
but you never know.
We want to demonstrate to other folks too that you can do this peacefully, and that the more people that do it, the more you exercise that First Amendment, you add teeth to it with the Second Amendment, that'll keep the government from ever taking away our First Amendment rights.
Right. So are you familiar with Oath Keepers and Stewart Rhodes?
We've met some of those folks, yeah.
Okay. And do you have any feelings about the...
I think it's part of the First and Second Amendment too, and veterans. I'm a veteran. He's a Vietnam veteran. We got several veterans out here.
Okay, well I just invite you to check out the Oath Keepers.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I don't know a lot about it.
Yeah, oathkeepers.org.
I've met some of the guys.
Stuart Rhodes is a good friend of mine.
Yeah, I'll be glad to check it out.
Yeah, it's about making sure these guys here know that they taken an oath to the Constitution and not to
foreign and domestic. That's what I swore into.
Right.
And you know, another thing that I remind veterans of every day was that when we took that oath, it was for life. It didn't say 5 years after you get out, 10 years after you get out, you burn the Constitution. No, that's a lifetime commitment.
Right.
Whether you're a civilian now or not.
Okay. Well, here, I'm going to give you something. I don't normally give anything away, but I'm going to give you a Constitution. It's got a Constitution, Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and a Citizen's Rule Book.
Okay.
It talks about jury nullification in there.
Okay.
You're familiar with jury nullification?
FIJA. Yep.
Yeah. So that's what that's.
Pretty well acquainted on constitutional issues.
So that might be.
Yeah. If it's mine.
Yeah. No, I'm giving that. That's
now,
to you.
This is one of our new sets. Here is where we're keeping tabs on the Occupy movements around the world, but that's something that we'll be discussing in the future. Now, I want to go ahead and just thank JT and brothers and sisters everywhere that still remember the oath we took to defend the Constitution from enemies wherever we may find them, at home or abroad. Again, there are many groups like JT's that have been training for some time now, and they're now looking at the Occupy movement and rooting us on. We are a nonviolent movement that seeks to make change using nonviolent methods. As John F. Kennedy once said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. Now, we should all pray that it does not reach that point. And moving right along, Ron Paul. You might not agree with many of his ideas. Heck, you might think he's just out in left field somewhere. But one thing many will agree on is that this next clip actually puts things into perspective. Watch this.
Imagine for a moment that somewhere in the middle of Texas there was a large foreign military base, say Chinese or Russian. Imagine that thousands of armed foreign troops were constantly patrolling American streets in military vehicles. Imagine they were here under the auspices of keeping us safe, or promoting democracy, or protecting their strategic interests. Imagine that they operated outside of U.S. law and that the Constitution did not apply to them. Imagine that every now and then they made mistakes or acted on bad information and accidentally killed or terrorized innocent Americans, including women and children, most of the time with little or no repercussions or consequences. Imagine that they set up checkpoints on our soil and routinely searched and ransacked entire neighborhoods of homes. Imagine if Americans were fearful of these foreign troops and overwhelmingly thought America would be better off without their presence. Imagine if some Americans were so angry about them being in Texas that they actually joined together to fight them off in defense of our soil and sovereignty because leadership in government refused or were unable to do so. Imagine that those Americans were labeled terrorists or insurgents for their defensive actions and routinely killed or captured or tortured by the foreign troops on our land. Imagine that the occupiers' attitude was that if they just killed enough Americans, the resistance would stop. But instead, for every American killed, 10 more would take up arms against them, resulting in perpetual bloodshed. Imagine if most of the citizens of the foreign land also wanted these troops to return home. Imagine if they elected a leader who promised to bring them home and put an end to this horror. Imagine if that leader changed his mind once he took office. The reality is that our military presence on foreign soil is as offensive to the people that live there as armed Chinese troops would be if they were stationed in Texas. Shutting down military bases
and ceasing to deal with other nations with threats and violence is not isolationism. It is the opposite. Opening ourselves up to friendship, honest trade, and diplomacy is the foreign policy of peace and prosperity. It is the only foreign policy that will not bankrupt us in the short order, as our current actions most definitely will. I share the disappointment of the American people in the foreign policy rhetoric coming from the administration. The sad thing is, our foreign policy will change eventually, as Rome's did, when all budgetary and monetary tricks to fund it are exhausted.
Whoa, after that, what else needs to be said? I'm just glad that Ron Paul finally stepped it up and explained it a little better, because it takes away the rhetoric of those who don't want you to hear what the brother's trying to say. And if you're like me, he's right. To defend my home, I would take it to the streets. But I just hope that Paul understands that a lot of damage has already been done, and there are many that will not be willing to sit down and talk about it. With that in mind, it brings us to the close of our first program of 2012. I want to close out with a portion of the video at the start of the show, and if you like it, you'll find a link below the video. And until next week, be safe and occupy everywhere.
Sometimes I pray at night and wonder what's left for me in my future.
Wall Street didn't just gain from globalization. It has been completely reckless of the power, manipulated it, twisted it, the rope is disgusted the world economy to its knees.
Sick of the struggle, corporate greed. It's all for you, none for me. Pay your debts, stay in line, planet screams, people die. I'm a man, I'm not your product. We're all owned by the bank to keep stocks up. I'm a victim, you play the predator, but I'm a citizen, and you're the senator. I'm making paper, really paper. My money ain't worth shit, it's all fake, huh? I don't got a face, I only got a voice. I hope you got the time, cause you ain't got a choice. This a banger, a we're in danger. We gotta open our eyes, we gotta wake up. This is our time, can't you see the signs? Take a look around, we ain't fucking blind.
We can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, cause this is our time. Our time, act out. We can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, cause this is our time. Our time.
So what's it gonna be? Wanna save your life? Gather in the streets. Human rights, time to occupy. Don't let them beggars slide. Our schools are shutting down over the greedy lies. We're in crisis, but we can fight this. We can occupy the globe, they won't like us. Cause we're tired, and we're fed up so much that we speak up. Believe us, they need us, now we're speaking. Holding up signs, we ain't leaving. Unemployment rise, dreams die, we ain't eating. Governments are purchased, bankers really own them. Kinda like our homes, cause we're all foreclosing. Money getting weaker, gas is getting higher. Kids, I can't feed you, nobody will hire. Now we're under pressure, man, what you gotta say now? Shove that fucking stimulus, we got no way to bail out.
We can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, cause this is our time. Our time, act out. We can make a difference if we speak out. How we gonna be if we just back down? Freedom, let me speak, cause this is our time. Our time.
Police cleared people from Zuccotti Park here in New York, the birthplace of the Occupy Wall Street.
Finally have some good news about the economy.
What happens next without a symbolic center? The Occupy Wall Street.
Everybody